All aboard the speculation station, baby. Choo-choo, the train is running into town. Because today we are diving into a trade update revolving around the Buffalo Sabres and the LA Kings that tries to go out there and give us a picture as to where everything can be going over the next few weeks. Now, a few days ago, we did make a video talking about Buffalo Sabres defenseman Bowen Byram, and reports saying that he is very well on the trade block. This is a pretty big deal because a lot of folks are pretty divided on Bowen Byram as a player. I happen to be very optimistic and believing of the young former Vancouver Giant. But you'll have a lot of Sabres fans arguing, saying, hey, this guy was riding the coattails of Dahlin. There are too many left-handed D-men in Buffalo. Dahlin, Power, Byram. Is there really a need for this kind of a guy? Etc., etc., etc. But now we are talking about a team that could very well be linked to Buffalo in Byram trade talks, as well as what the return could be, as presented to us by Marco D'Amico on Twitter 2 days ago. Take a look at this tweet that was published that garnered some attention. The Sabres are gauging the market on Bowen Byram, and this is not new. The player is looking for an opportunity to be that top guy. He recently changed his representative to Quartex earlier this month, and a trade is expected to help Buffalo improve elsewhere. Left D is a position of strength for them. D'Amico then replies, I'd watch the LA Kings, who have a need on LD, especially if they can't sign Vladislav Gavrikov. A deal around Jordan Spence plus, or, if they have really soured on him, Brandt Clarke for Byram could make a ton of sense. Now, one of the top replies says, oh, he's on Quartex? That automatically means he's a Hab. Okay, we're gonna disregard that. But the LA Kings emerging as a potential trade destination for Byram. Marco D'Amico, of course, senior editor for RG and a guy who does stuff for BPM, TSN, and CBC. He definitely isn't saying this out of nowhere, but of course, he's not guaranteeing this is happening, but he is saying that we should keep our eyes peeled, which does make sense to me. Now, the LA Kings, they're kind of in a tough spot because Gavrikov, I don't know if you've been seeing, but the reports on Gavrikov is that guy could get maybe $7 million a year on the free agent market. And I get it. He's a good player. He has really worked himself up and improved since his days with the Columbus Blue Jackets. And with the LA Kings, there were some pretty good games that he had played with the squad. 30-minute games, 20-plus minute games. He was a consistent 23-minute guy for the Kings this previous year. There were some games that he had reaching 25 minutes. So Gavrikov, obviously very used. He's going to get a lot of money. He's going to get a big pay raise. And who knows if LA is going to be the team that is able to give that to him. Now, if you go over to the rest of the LA Kings and their lines, beyond Gavrikov, it kind of falls apart quickly. You've got Joel Edmondson. Yeah, that Joel Edmondson. He's probably somebody that I think a lot of people criticized from the contract that he was given by the LA Kings. Mikey Anderson is on the team too. He's fine. I've been a fan of Mikey Anderson. Consistent 22-plus minute guy as well. But with Gavrikov leaving, that leaves a pretty big hole on this Kings blue line. And if you have a Bowen Byram coming in, that could be one of the pieces to help provide solace in that respect, especially if he's a top pair guy, which we are all expecting him to be. As for the return, let's focus on the big fish first, because D'Amico says, hey, if it's Brandt Clarke for Bowen Byram, that could make sense. Brandt Clarke is a guy whose reputation around the NHL is probably different than the way the LA Kings internally view him. I still remember when Brandt Clarke was in the OHL and before he had played his draft-eligible season in Slovakia because of the shutdown COVID year. This guy was seen as potentially the next Quinn Hughes, except right-handed. Sure, he was kinda lanky, but this was a guy who could move in the offensive zone, he could quarterback a power play, he played for the Don Mills Flyers with Shane Wright, and he was really good over there. Brandt Clarke had a lot of potential, and it's why he was taken in the top 10 of the 2021 draft. And it's why Brandt Clarke, as he progressed in the OHL, he became a near double point per game guy for the Barrie Colts, inevitably played in the AHL in 23-24. He had 46 points in 50 games in his first full season over there. And then this season, he had 33 points in 78 games played. That's pretty good, considering the very limited ice time that he had and the lack of a true offensively productive role with this team. This guy was being given so little. I remember throughout the season in fantasy hockey, Brandt Clarke would just be up and down, on teams and dropped from teams, on teams and dropped from teams, because you couldn't really predict when he would be getting power play points because he was very rarely getting those minutes. But when he was on and he was good, but the team just did not really have him as a main priority. And with all the other right-handed defensemen on the team, Jordan Spence is a good one. Drew Doughty is still there. He's still kicking it with the LA Kings. It just seems like they have fizzled this guy out from their future plans. And it's kind of interesting because I do think if you were to equate it value to value, mano a mano, I do think that it's really equal here. Brandt Clarke and the potential he has on the right side versus Bowen Byram and the lack of stuff that he was able to do away from guys like Rasmus Dahlin. It's kind of interesting because a lot of folks would say, hey, his production isn't really indicative of the actual quality of play that he brings. He gets more points than he actually probably should, which is kind of strange to me because I'm thinking like, hey, he finds a way to get those points. He was very productive in the WHL and he's always been a top tier guy. But it's been odd in Buffalo playing him on the right side and the top pair. He's not really overthrowing Dahlin or Owen Power in that respect. So Bowen Byram in Buffalo has been through a very interesting path. Brandt Clarke in LA, it's been one season of him playing with the Kings, but it hasn't been good in terms of the projection and what the Kings team seems to view Brandt Clarke as an asset. They don't really seem to give this guy the opportunities that he deserves. So if a trade is open for both of these players, it would make sense to do a swap, in my opinion. Now, speaking about the other guys that are on this LA Kings team that could be potentially sent over, the poster on Twitter, Marco D'Amico, highlights Jordan Spence as a potential name. I really like Jordan Spence. He's a very nice player, but he produced fewer points than Brandt Clarke this previous year. But he is a little bit smaller. He is more of a project. And I understand that this is a guy who won't command the same amount of trade value as a Brandt Clarke, but if you're going to go big in a trade, you're going to get Bowen Byram, you got to go big for big. You got to send over some assets of value like a Brandt Clarke. Of course, Marco D'Amico said Jordan Spence plus some stuff, so it's not going to be just Spence, but why not make things a little bit easier? Just keep the guy that is probably not going to move the needle as much and send over that big fish that y'all really don't like anyway. Because Brandt Clarke hasn't been given the respect he deserves. I'm thinking if it's a Dahlin-Clarke top pairing, that would be insane. You have two guys who could totally command the blue line, feeding off of each other. And Bowen Byram as a number one, alongside of Drew Doughty? I mean, talk about the transition from old into new, especially if Gavrikov ends up leaving. There could be some very good top-tier quality defending in LA one more time. If Byram is able to pan out to his potential. You gotta remember, back in 2019, we were saying this guy was gonna be a top pair D-man. He was the best D-man in that 2019 draft, and he could have been challenging in that Quinn Hughes, sort of Noah Dobson territory if he had just been eligible for the prior draft. I know that's kind of a stupid thing to talk about, but like, Byram was seen with such high regard back in that time frame. And I think that he's only 23, 24 years old. There still is time for him to eventually fill that out. It's just been kind of difficult for him to fully do that. We thought he'd be able to do it with Cale Makar in Colorado, but instead they found Devon Taves and they gave him the role. And then in Buffalo, he was playing with Dahlin, which is great, but he was on his offside, and there's value there still in that asset. So stick him on the left side with Drew Doughty on his right and let Bowen Byram cook. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, whether or not you think this is a good idea. Do you think it's actually possible? And if it would make sense in your opinion. Bowen Byram, Brandt Clarke, Buffalo, LA. Let me know in the comments all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.